Okay, here is the homework helper for Chapter 1, Section 3 over scientific notation for the workbook. So in the top section, 1 through 16, all those questions are grouped together because they're asking you to do the same thing, and what they're asking you to do is to multiply. So let's take a look at question number 1. In question number 1, the problem says 6 times 10 to the third. Now remember, we don't need a calculator to do this. From what you saw in class today, hopefully you remember that this exponent tells us all about moving a decimal. So all I have to do to solve this is move a decimal out. And I'm going to move it to the right because that's what positive exponents do. So when I've got 6 times 10 to the third, I'm going to take 6 and then I'm going to scoop the decimal 3 times out. Now obviously there's no numbers there, so as you saw in class, we're going to fill those in with zeros. And we end up with 6,000. Now I want to do another question from this section because there is a little bit of an issue here with the way the book wrote this. So let's take a look at question 9. 84 times 10 to the fourth. Now remember, we've been talking all day about scientific notation here. But this is not written in proper scientific notation. It doesn't mean we can't multiply, but I want to point out it's not scientific notation. Because in order to be scientific notation, this number in front has to be somewhere between 1 and 10, less than 10. So if it was 8.4, it would be in proper scientific notation. This is not in proper scientific notation. I want to make sure I point that out. But it doesn't affect anything else. The exponent here is 4, and we do the same thing as we did in question 1 that was written in proper scientific notation. The exponent of 4 tells us we're going to kick the decimal 4 times out to the right. So I'm going to take 84 and go 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to the right. And that gets me to 840,000, otherwise known as 840,000. Now as you can see, 17 through 24 are also grouped together, so you can do the same basic idea in all those questions. So let's look at one of those. It's asking us to write the number in scientific notation. So let's take a look at 17 there. In 17, we're supposed to take 34,000 and write that in scientific notation. So remember, scientific notation involves writing something between 1 and 10. So you're going to have to insert a decimal in the number, which is going to be 3.4000. Now, of course, once I have this decimal here, it doesn't really matter that I have all these zeros at the end because they're after the decimal point and there's no non-zero after them. So if you want, you can just write that as 3.4. And remember, that's what scientific notation is about. It's about taking a big number and writing it in a more simple way. All right, so next thing would always be a times 10. It's times 10 because we have a base 10 numbering system. And then all I have to do is figure out the exponent. The exponent is the number of times I move the decimal. Well, it was here, and as you saw in the beginning, I moved it so it was between the 3 and the 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps, so the exponent is 4. So 34,000 translates to 3.4 times 10 to the fourth in scientific notation. Okay, 25 through 28, you've got a bunch of story problems at the bottom there, so let's take a look at those. We'll do number 25. You've got Lake Superior covering an area of about 31,700 square miles, and we're supposed to write the number in scientific notation. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did here in number 17, except it's in the guise of a story problem. So again, I want to drop the decimal in so it becomes something that's between 1 and 10. And that's going to make this 3.1700. And of course, these zeros being after the decimal, we don't need those anymore. So I'm going to get rid of those. So I've got 3.17. Then I'm going to write times 10. And remember, it's always times 10 because we use a base 10 numbering system. And then I've got to figure out an exponent to go with the 10. And the exponent is how many times I move the decimal. Well, the decimal when it started was here. And as we said in the beginning, I moved it to between the 3 and the 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 moves of the decimal. So the exponent is 4.